Cory McCartney, joined by Christian Guerra from Impact Sports Psych. Christian, man, appreciate the time. Appreciate you coming by for a little while.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Going to get a lot into things here with you momentarily. Carolina Prime is at the plate to start things off. They'll be led off by Kyle Larson, then Ashton Seuss and A.J. Jackson. While USA Prime has Sam Dixon, the right-hander, on the mound. That one's in for a strike to start things off in this matchup. So, Christian, let's go inside the background a little bit. You work with elite athletes, military personnel, first responders. I'm really interested in the process for you and how you work with clients. But first, dealing with so many different groups where high intensity and having to process a lot in a quick amount of time. Tell me about the pathing and getting down to all this for you and just kind of everything that your work encompasses.
Yeah, so one thing that I feel like has been a pillar to my growth has been the time that I spent with the military. As a contractor, they wanted you to do everything. So you have to be able to meet with the training staff. You need to be able to meet with all the leaders, with the trainees. So with that, I was able to get in front of a lot of people that are different, right? So leaders, you're talking about generals, commanders, first sergeants, people with different experiences. And I was able to understand how to address them. Because when I went to school, it was okay, how can you help people get better at performing, right? But, it wasn't really so much of how do you address people who are different? And I think that time in the military helped me understand how to address them, what are some of the worries that they have, how we can help them.
You are a certified mental performance coach. What, in your experience, what is that separator from a high-level performer and someone who actually has the skills or the ability but doesn't actually reach that peak performance?
So could you rephrase the question?
So we have a lot of athletes out here today in particular. You get to a certain point where these athletes, we have a throwdown there on third, we're going to have our first run of the game score for Carolina Prime, where you have someone who reaches their potential, what they want their potential to be, someone who has the skills who doesn't get there. When you're working with somebody, what do you feel like and see that are those attributes that lead someone to actually get to where they want that performance to get, as opposed to somebody who has the ability but doesn't actually see the end results?
Right. I think it's the mindset. So somebody who truly grows and gets to where they want to go usually doesn't have a limit. Somebody that has the mindset of growth, not just a fixed mindset hey, once I reach this, then we're good. And so whenever that happens, they put a lot of pressure on themselves. And therefore, even though they have the skills, they do not get to where they want to go because they have a limit on where they want to go. Goals are cool, right? Goals are great. Goals are essential. That can't be the determining factor on where your limit is, right? So what I've seen with those athletes that are really locking in and are growing constantly are the ones that are hey, I'm just looking to get better every day. I don't really have an end goal because I know that my limits are not defined, but my goals give me direction.
Well, they say the journey is often better than the results, right? And sometimes when you're able to appreciate the journey and not be so focused on getting that thing, because a lot of time you get to that thing and it doesn't make you feel the way that you expected it to, and then you look back and be like, hey, it was actually the process of getting there that was a little bit more meaningful. But I mentioned the individuals you work with in high-stress environments. What are those fundamental pieces for you when you start working with these groups and these individuals in terms of setting them up to perform the best in their different environments?
Yeah, I mean, the first part is them understanding how their mind works. That is the foundation of when I work with any high performer, is understanding, hey, how is it that I process information? So there is a cognitive processing model that I go over with them as this is what happens and this is what you think about it. This is how you respond. Setting that foundation makes a huge difference on what empowers them. Because many players, many athletes, many performers don't understand how much of an influence they have over their improvement. And so me being able to help them understand, hey, you have more power than you think you do, that is number one factor that kicks things off.
I've really gotten into mental performance. One of the real gateways for me was Admiral McRaven's book, Make Your Bed. You know, he ended up giving that commencement speech at Texas A&M, and just kind of had that having that, you know, that structural discipline each and every day, and kind of setting up those pieces, whether it's, you know, you journaling or gratitude or visualization, meditation. You deal with a lot more. We were talking before we went on air about having basically the science behind all of this.
Yes.
How difficult is it then when there's not really that foundational proof that this stuff works, and then trying to put that all together and continue your own work?
Yeah, I mean, lately it's been a lot of assessments, like self-assessments, where we ask the athlete to be very honest about where they think they are in confidence and motivation and in composure, focus. But now we have technology that can measure all of those. So understanding how to use that technology and be able to show them in real time, like, look, this actually works. What you are applying actually is making a difference on how your body is responding. That's what is going to make it a lot better for us in the future.
One of the big things for me personally is just been learning to breath work. Yeah. How much do you use that with your clients?
It's huge. It's huge because breath work is, yes, breathing is great. It helps, kick off the rest and digest response, right? Which basically counteracts the fight or flight response. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. The second thing, though, is the focusing on the breathing, because athletes tend to overthink. They're thinking about what happened. They're thinking about what might happen, not what's happening. So much energy is being spent on all of those three things instead of focusing your energy, efforts, and attention on what's happening right now. So breath work is so effective because it forces you to focus on the now, not on what happened, not on what might happen, but what's happening right now. And that is, I believe, even more beneficial than just breathing, right? So,
in baseball, we hear a lot of times about controlling the controllables, and you think about, those things being your effort, your attitude, your reaction. When you lean into adaptability with somebody, what are those key points of emphasis for you when you kind of start to have somebody almost have that unbeatable mind?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is something we introduce, which is ACT or ACT, and it stands for acceptance and commitment training. So they're in a situation that they cannot control many things. So acceptance is super important. A lot of people try to ignore things, which usually doesn't work out very well. So accepting that things are happening, accepting perhaps your emotions of frustration, accepting that something happened, accepting that you cannot change the past, and committing to those things that you can do right now. That is the key to not letting things bottle up, right? And then you might lash out or you might react rather than respond. We want people to be more tactical in their responses.
Well, if people are loving what we're talking about, they can find out more about you at impactspc.com. You're on IG and X at Impact SPC. Facebook is on Impact Sports Psych. So tell me about your involvement here at LakePoint Sports. I know you're pursuing a PhD. What you're doing here could end up having a major influence on your research for that. But tell me a little bit about the involvement here and what you hope that athletes can get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been here for a few weeks, and I've been able to talk to parents. So parents are the first people I talk to, because they come to me and they say, hey, look, I don't know exactly how to help my athlete, right? I want to help. We are talking to them, but we don't know exactly what that is. So me being a resource not only to athletes, but also to parents that want to understand how to unlock their child's performance. That is, I think it's something that many people didn't really know about. Mm-hmm. And that I wasn't surprised with that, because I talked to a lot more parents in my business already that want to understand how to help their child. And then me speaking to the athlete, they can see that I have things that I offer, right, that can help them in their performance. So I'm hoping that, as I'm here, I'm able to create more relationships, be able to grow, the knowledge of that something is available. Many people don't even know that it exists. No, not many people even know that that's a thing. In fact, here in Georgia, with the certified mental performance coaching, you're talking about less than 20 or so.
Wow.
Certified mental performance coaches. So it's growing. It's just very tiny right now. So not many people know that is available. So now I'm trying to raise the awareness, like, hey, this is something that's available to you.
We're understanding the what, but what was the why for you? Why was this ultimately something that you decided that this is where you wanted to create this niche?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I played soccer and football. I was good, but I wasn't like, I knew that I was holding myself back. So one of my mentors, somebody I went to church with, he told me, hey, look, I read about something called like imagery or visualization. You got to practice this like the night before the game. Just imagine that you are doing really well. So my senior year, I tried that before every game. And I went every time I was like, going to bed, I would imagine, what I was doing, that I was doing well. And that season I was all state here in Georgia for soccer. So I was able to be like, my mind was able to be more familiar with the situation, with the pressure. And it's almost like I was just reliving, an experience that I had recreated or created the night before. So I was so fascinated by how much of a change that was. Just that one thing that I did made a huge change on how my body responded, how I, performed. So I got really interested in it. I went to school for it. So.
Yeah, the power of visualization is always so incredible to me. I remember recently reading a story about an Olympic shooter that he was in the military in sniper school, and he only had access to the shooting range, once a month. But he would spend so much time with the visualization part of it, and ended up setting an American record for the highest score on the range that he was on. Just the fact that you can train your body and the muscle memory to be able to do that without actually going through the motions of it is just absolutely incredible.
It's incredible. I mean, we've had many studies that we've researched that it's the same result. Like mental training is fundamental to success. You can't be out here all day. You can't be out here all day.
Yep.
You can try, right? And you can do all this physical training. If you don't accompany it with mental training, you're not going to improve as fast as you would like.
One of the things that I've found has been really helpful, and when I speak to my own kids about it, is just gratitude. Whether you're doing that, verbally, whether you're journaling it, whatever approach you have. And I know sometimes people will look at things like visualization, meditation, and gratitude is kind of maybe a little hokey, but being able to approach it in a way that's like, no, just if you put out more of this, then more of it's going to come back to you. And being able to, set yourself up for more positives to come by focusing on the positives is a very simple thing. And it's kind of sometimes confounding when people try to make it so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there is a study, because there's a physiological response to things such as gratitude and things like that. And there was a study that they conducted where they had two groups of people. They brought in one group and they gave them 4 random words. And said, hey, write sentences with these words. Words such as, camera, sky, car, whatever. So they wrote these sentences down. They brought in the second group, and they gave them words associated with old age without saying old age. So they said, like, gray, bingo, wrinkled, or, Florida, right? So these people wrote these sentences down as well. And then they told these 2 groups, hey, walk down this hallway, go to this next classroom, and then we're going to finish the experiment there. So they did, and then what they were actually measuring was how long it took these 2 groups to walk down this hallway. And what they found is that that group that had the association with those words with old age, they walked significantly slower than the other group. So what we found with that study and other studies that have been conducted similar to those is that what your environment, what you have around you, what it is that you are focusing on, the words that you have in your mind, your body is responding without you even knowing it. So that's why, they say like manifestation and like something, there is a scientific explanation for that, is because we don't even know that our bodies are responding to what it is that is in our environment. So it is, if you want to be more intentional about, growth, surround yourself with things that are going to be more positive, more facilitative to growth.
We were just talking during the break there about your influences. When there's so much out there, but yet you feel like there's something lacking, how do you kind of approach the work that you want to do in a way that's going to be new and kind of breathe new life into what's already out there?
Yeah, so performance training, performance psychology has been a heavily unregulated field, which is why the Association for Applied Sports Psychology made this certification, the CMPC, or Certified Mental Performance Coaching, because we want to put out there more scientific, research, skills that have been backed up by research, not things that are like motivational, because motivation comes and goes.
Yeah.
My duty is for me to not have you need me anymore. Right after us working together, for you to be like, I have been equipped with the tools and the things that I need to go out there and succeed. So that is something that's different from perhaps like some life coaches or, like motivational coaches, things like that. Is we have, with that certification, I have to have a advanced degree, have to have 400 hours of mentored experience, have to have those 400 hours have to be with athletes or, military personnel. We have to pass a written exam. So, we've been vetted as certified mental performance coaches. And that certification is the one the military branches ask for, pro teams ask for, especially in baseball. It's heavy in baseball. They want somebody that has that certification. So I know that I have the knowledge, and I have the skills, and I have the things that have been backed up by research. So when I talk to people about it, I know that it works. It's not something like, like it might work,
This question can be a little bit more philosophical, but when we talk about when athletes get to a certain level, do you feel like anyone can get better and unlock that new version of them through the mental side of it, or are they ultimately limited by the physical abilities?
So, we're not going to ignore physical abilities, right? Like, there are some things that are traits, right? And there are some things that are skills. So some traits obviously are going to give an advantage to some people or a disadvantage to others. Skills is what we focus on. It's like, hey, how can we make sure that you grow as much as you can, right? And I'm not saying let's place a limit on that. Let's see like how far you can go. There's two types of motivation that a lot of athletes need to understand. One is ego orientation, which is I'm looking around to see how I can be better than other people. Oh, I need to beat this person because they're going to take my spot, right? Like, or I better do better than this person, or they're going to take, they're going to take my spot or whatever. So that is ego orientation. Task orientation, though, is different. Is how can I be better than I was yesterday? How can I continue working on only that? And those people are the ones that have been shown to grow way more than those that are comparing themselves to others.
But it's hard, too, in competitive environments not to do that, right? It's just try to understand the competition is ultimately you. It's when we talk about wins and lessons and not wins and losses, and being able to accept that part of it, that ultimately you're against yourself more so than you're, in this case, against the batter in the box.
Right, yeah, and that is the great thing about having a growth mindset, is when you see success in others, you're inspired by their success, right? Whether it's a competitor or whether it's a teammate, you are inspired that, hey, they can do well, I can do well, right? Like, I put in effort, I embrace challenges, I grow from failure. Like, if I do that, I know that I can do well. So I'm inspired that they can do well because I know I can do well as well. One
of the books that I really enjoy was Angela Duckworth's Grit, in kind of that understanding of, intense passion meeting intense perseverance toward that long-term goal. And I know you talked about goals ultimately not, being the thing, but I always find it's like, again, as I go back to having written a couple books and I look back and you hold that physical thing in your hand, but it wasn't getting there. It was the grit and the determination, the perseverance of actually seeing that thing through, and that being kind of the defining factor when I look back on something like that.
Yeah, what we have found is that self-actualization, or that feeling of completion, right, like you're fulfilled, is not by what you do, but who you become. Right? So, you can accomplish a lot of things, But if you are suffering through all that and not having, not feeling like you're becoming better just to accomplish that, then you haven't really been self-actualized. But if you're seeing that you're growing and those results come, which you write a book or you are able to take it to the next level in athletics or whatever, then those are things that are results, right? Part of the process, right? So who you become is more powerful than what you do. Because what you do is just, things that are accomplished, but who you become makes a whole lot of difference. Because there's people out there, there's pros out there that have accomplished everything and they're still not fulfilled. It's because they just suffer their way through everything and they're like, okay, I'm here and I didn't think it was going to be what I thought.
You mentioned starting off with the parents. When you first get with an athlete, what's step one for you when you're sitting down with them and really understanding what one makes them tick, but ultimately how you can help them get where they want to be?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is listening. Like the biggest thing is doing the evaluation, or what I call discovery. So it's like there are people that have different things holding them back. So parents, will tell me about what their view is, and then I meet with the athlete and see what their mentality is, what it is that they think they need help with. And then I tell them, look, I am just like a personal trainer. Like, I can give you all the tools. I can give you the information. If you succeed, this is going to be all on you, and I don't want you to tell me thank you for this or that. I want you to take accountability for this. And I ask them questions. I'm like, do you love the sport? Like, are you playing the sport because you want to, not because your parents are telling you to? Because if your parents are telling you to, then we're not going to really work together. Because I'm not going to see too much of a drive. You're not going to see progress. And if you are not willing to put in, like the second question is, are you willing to put in the work that we talk about? If they say yes, then, we're good to go. Because I'm just giving the tools. They're the ones applying it. And I want them to understand, like, hey, look, like this is something you can achieve. Like, this is on you. Like, how well it does is on you. So setting the foundation of like, hey, I have power in what I do. I have a say on how I respond to things. That's the way that sets the foundation. If we can't get through that, then, sorry, we can't really work together.
Well, that's absolutely awesome stuff. Again, he is Christian Guerra, Impact Sports Psych. You can find him on IG and X at Impact SPC, Facebook, Impact Sports Psych, and, of course, here on the LakePoint Sports Campus. Christian, appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
thank you for stopping by. We'll be back with more. We've got a 2-0 lead for Carolina Prime over USA.